What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. I'm actually here in Toronto already. You can probably tell by the hotel room and the hotel bed behind me. It's Tuesday. Normally I do like another miscellaneous video. I do my bracket for the major on Wednesday, but I figured I'd put it on Tuesday for this event. So let's dive in. We're going to talk about the matchups, talk about who I think's going to win, who's going to lose, who's going to bomb out, who's going to make a deep run, who the dark horses are, maybe some betting tips. So let's dive in and take a look at what we got starting on Thursday. All right, so we're going to start with the winners bracket matchups, and then we'll do losers bracket, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so normally I'd use the pick'em tool, but it's not live for the major when I'm recording this video. So I've just put everything in the draw IO, and we're going to just kind of do it grungy style. So let's dive in. We're going to start with Atlanta FAZE versus the Miami Heretics. I think this one's a pretty straightforward kind of matchup. Miami hasn't won any matches on land, and FAZE obviously have been very hot really since last stage, honestly. And like, as much as I'd like to talk about maybe a Miami upset here, I just don't see Pats, man. Like, if you're a FAZE, you're going to get rid of high-rise S&D. You're going to get rid of sub-base hardpoint. And you look at every other map, and you're feeling good. Vista, Rio, 6-star hardpoints. Okay, S&Ds. You got Invasion Search, Karachi S&D. I assume Miami's going to get rid of Rio, so you probably got 6-star like. And same with the controls. I just find it really hard for me to give Miami maybe more than a map in this series. Now, here we get to a fun one. LA Thieves versus New York Subliners. So New York not had the best of stages. They've lost to all the top teams. But Thieves are a team that are dangerous, but aren't exactly the most clinical team. So you've got this weird mix of a New York Subliners team that's really not playing very good, and a Thieves team that has the ability to upset them, but are they really going to be able to close out the series? I think the other key thing here too, if you are a bettor, is that you might think automatically that this series might go to 5, but I actually don't necessarily think that. When you think about both these teams, I think about all the probable outcomes. I see a lot where this ends in 3 or 4 because I expect one of these teams to not, or both these teams to not be playing A+ Call of Duty coming into this. Listen, I think as much as I'd like to give Thieves credit, they've been really poor in map 4s. They've been very poor in control. I gotta kind of give it to New York here. There's no way for me to really slice it. I definitely think there's upset potential in this. I just don't think that's the prediction I'm gonna make. So we're gonna go ahead and say Subliners. Now we'll leave it like that and we'll be good to go. All right, next up we got Toronto versus Seattle. Now this is a very interesting one. So the books have Toronto as a pretty heavy favorite in this matchup, but I think Seattle, if they play the way they play online, which is not a guarantee, by the way, they could definitely come out to this tournament and play super flat. Just saying, if they play the way they played online, they're going to give Toronto a trouble on a couple of different maps. The only problem is that I think that Toronto's kind of the better control team. And, as the series goes along, I think Toronto's experience is going to show. You got to think about this Seattle team, and the fact of the matter is that the last event they started in losers bracket. This is the first winners bracket CDL match for 04 for Brezzy, for Abuza, and we know that Hook has been very disappointing at lands as of late. So I think Seattle's going to make this interesting. I think if you are a someone that is betting for this to go over 3 maps, I think I'd feel pretty good about this one. I got like Toronto closing this one out like 3-1, and we will go ahead, we'll copy, boom, 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 and put Ultra in as they advance. All right, last matchup of the winners bracket, we've got OPTIC Texas versus the Carolina Royal Ravens. This could be one of those classic 3-0-3-1s that really just aren't that close, even though Carolina steals a map. I could see them stealing like an S&D in this one, maybe a map 1. OPTIC haven't played like the most disciplined COD the last few weeks, but I thought their last series was actually very clean. So if they play that way, I think they're going to smoke Carolina. But if it's a normal, like we've seen in the past, this one could get a little bit interesting, but I think OPTIC have too much talent. We don't even need to talk about stats, and I just think OPTIC should win this one like 9 out of 10 times on paper. Go ahead, we'll copy this, paste, boom, 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 boom. I should capitalize the T's and Z's, but I'm not really going to do that. By not doing that, I'm getting in trouble with Hector, but he's already roasted me once for not capitalizing T in an email. What stopped me from doing it again? All right, so I just don't know really how to call this one. The books obviously don't have any odds up yet because these matchups haven't been drawn, but neither team is very consistent. Vegas did look pretty solid last series they played. Miami have looked solid down the stretch here. So I feel like this is kind of a pick'em. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I think a lot of people are gonna pick Vegas in this matchup. I think I'm just gonna pick Miami to actually win one here. Maybe I'm crazy for that. I don't know. But I feel like the Johnny pickup I get for Vegas, I just think Miami's kind of due to win one on land, and Nothing I've seen from Vegas in the couple of series with Johnny here makes me think that they're a heavy favorite in this one. But Miami have also looked terrible at land, and I can look like a moron for making this pick, so oh well. All right, we got LA Thieves versus Boston Breach, and I'm gonna be honest with you, like I can see this one going 5 just because, again, Thieves don't really close people out, but are we really trusting Boston to win in game 5? I'm not. I also think Boston's play style is just not gonna work when you go to land and things play a little bit slower and they just kind of run around. I think Boston's gonna very quickly exit this tournament on Friday, and I got Thieves. Honestly, the 3-0 might be a really good play here from a betting standpoint, but obviously, again, odds are not up yet for this. All right, so we got Seattle and Minnesota here. So this one's kind of a fun one. I just think this is entirely dependent on realistically how Seattle plays in this series, because if Seattle play the way they should play, they should beat Minnesota. And I say that because you look at these stats from Minnesota from the stage and like, I mean, they're just not good. Like they can't win controls, can't win hard points. But the problem is I just think Seattle's play style can be very weird in situations like this. So I think I'm going to pick Seattle. But again, I think this one is another one where I got to see how they play on day one. And I might change my prediction on the flank. So don't yell at me if I end up doing that. But I'm going to pick Surge just based on form going in this tournament. But obviously, weird stuff can always happen. I can't get this to center, but we'll just leave it as that. All right, so we got Carolina versus LAG. I think Carolina should win this one. Nothing we've seen from LAG recently with the flame change has been really that convincing. I mean, it's the same thing with Minnesota. Like you look at these and like even with flames, yeah, they were winning a couple of controls, but the hard point's been really ugly. They've been 0-5 on 6-star. 0-2 on Karachi. They might get a sub base in this because Carolina do play, so they got a chance. But the S&Ds, Carolina's been good on search. I just don't see the angle here for LAG at the moment, so I'm going to take Carolina in this one. Let's keep it moving. We're going to continue through losers bracket to elimination round 3, and then we'll jump back to the top. So Thieves versus Heretics. I think Miami's run-ins here. I think Thieves are just the more well-rounded team. And again, even with Thieves' issue with closing, I just think they have the deeper map pool, and again, they get high raise. The same thing as FAZE, right? Get high raise out of here, you know, just kind of run the new maps. And I don't know. I don't really see the angle from Miami, but obviously there's always a world where they just kind of get hot and they finally make a run at one of these events. But I think top 8 is where they unfortunately end up. All right, next up we have Seattle and Carolina. So these teams played earlier in the stage online, and Seattle won, but it did go to a game 5. I just think for me, I trust Carolina more than I do Seattle. And again, I have a good feeling that this might be Minnesota, honestly, instead of Seattle playing Ravens, in which case I'd still pick Ravens. But I think Ravens get another top 6 here and beat whoever comes out of that other matchup on the bottom side of losers bracket. All right, let's scroll up. We got the winners finals right now. These are 2 absolute bangers on Saturday. Starting off with FAZE versus New York. And while the last time they played, it did not go very good. I think the difficulty for New York is that Invasion S&D might be the S&D that they have the best chance on, but FaZe is going to get the veto here, and they're going to pick Team B, and they're going to pick the S&D they want, and Invasion will be a game 5, and FaZe may just win that again like they did at the last major at LAN. I just don't see the other respawn angles for New York here, so I'm going to go with FaZe. I just think what we've seen from New York has been very poor online in the respawn, but if they find some form here, you never know. They have beaten FaZe online this season. So Toronto and OPTIC, and look, I want to back the home team here. I really want to. The issue and why I can't is Toronto's just not a good search team, and I don't think the OPTIC is the world's greatest search team either as a team search, because I think they have good individual search players, and I think that's why they've run into trouble against FaZe. I think Toronto's S&D has been so poor that unless it magically turns around, I don't see them winning 3 respawns in this match. So I'm going to go OPTIC, probably a 3-1. But even if this goes game 5, I feel pretty good about OPTIC advancing through and getting the rematch with FaZe from last major. All right, so I populated the losers from winner semis down here. As you might maybe not know, the bracket kind of flips. So if you're on the top side of winners and you lose that round, you go to the bottom side losers, blah, blah, blah. So these are 2 matches we get now for top 4. Toronto versus LA Thieves. Now, this is a real fun one. The real angle in this one is the S&D mismatch and the control mismatch, because Toronto is the better control team, but Thieves is the better search team. So that first map hardpoint becomes, I think, very interesting in this series, because I can see Thieves going up 2-0, and then they got to kind of close out map 4, which has been iffy, and then we get back to the same issue we've had with Thieves, really all split. Or in the Toronto case, they win that first map, which might be like a 6-star, and they win that second map and they can close this out 3-0. I just am concerned that this Thieves team, as disciplined as they are and as good as their concepts are, I just don't think they've got the team to meet the moment like this. I think there's still a lot of polish. So I got Toronto coming through here to top 4. I really want to pick Thieves, but I can't. So this I think is the best one of the bunch. New York versus Carolina, because Carolina's actually beaten New York twice this season, believe it or not. The issue for New York in a series like this is Carolina does get better on land. New York's not a great respawn team. They're going to play Carolina probably on sub base. They're going to give Carolina some really good maps here. So I got the Ravens to make the upset here, New York to get top 6, and Carolina to advance to Sunday. It'd be huge for Carolina, and if they make this move, they'll probably be in a inside track to qualify for champs at this point, jumping a bunch of teams like a Minnesota, for example, who end up getting 0 points from sort of the land portion of the split. But I just have to take history here with Carolina over New York. Some of y'all might call me crazy for that, but it is what it is. We got FAZE versus OPTIC. I think I've talked about this a lot, over the last couple of weeks, because OPTIC has really been prepping a lot of ways to attack FAZE, and they tried the high-rise strat against them earlier on the split, and it didn't work out. I think, look, OPTIC's going to eventually start winning a bunch of respawns against FAZE. I think the difficulty for me is when we get to search and destroy, because it's at the point where I think if you're FAZE, you kind of just ban Karachi S&D against OPTIC. You may get Invasion S&D, which FAZE definitely got to work on. It might be an issue at this event if they still have the same issues they had online. But any other S&D map, especially if you're taking Team B, you probably win in this one. So I trust FAZE in a game 5 more than I do OPTIC. So I'm going to go ahead and pick them. But I do think OPTIC's going to meet the moment in this one. I don't think it'll be a blowout 3-0. At least I'm hoping it's not a blowout 3-0 type of deal. All right, so let's finish out the bottom side of the bracket here. Toronto versus Carolina. Look, I love Carolina, but there's not really much overthinking we got to do here. They're just not going to make the run past Toronto in their home event. Toronto's going to get a chance to make grand finals, and Carolina top 4 is something to be very proud of. That's really good progress out of them. So this one is an interesting one. In the one matchup that Toronto in their home situation where the crowd is going to be very split, there's always OPTIC fans at every event, and they'll show up in Toronto. So control-wise, both teams are very good. The hardpoint map pools are interesting. There's some really good overlap. I think we could see an Insano square up on 6-star here. I do think that Toronto might want to dodge Rio against OPTIC, so that might be the path to go in the vetoes. I don't think either team has been amazing at like a Karachi, so that could be another hardpoint map. There's some very interesting stuff that can happen with the respawn map pools, and I think hardpoint to me, I'll say, is a split. Control is also kind of a split, but I'm going to favor OPTIC more so than I favor Toronto, because I think OPTIC's offenses are probably a little bit better. But the reason I got to pick OPTIC in this is purely in the search. Toronto has not been good at S&D coming into this, and I got to always trust the team in search that's going to execute, and it's going to be OPTIC going into rematch with FAZE in the grand final. We're going to run back a grand final. We haven't had, I saw stat that like we haven't had two teams play a back-to-back grand final since like 2017, which is crazy to think about. It hasn't happened in 7 years, but here we are. I'm going to do something a little bit wild here. I think almost everybody's picking FAZE to win this event, which is understandable because their form's been very good, and they're on a sort of like a generational-esque run here that's very reminiscent of Cold War. And I think if FAZE bring that kind of form coming in this event, and they show that swagger on Saturday, I think this one's probably over. But OPTIC has played them close, and I think eventually OPTIC's going to win one, and I think it's going to happen right here. I just think that OPTIC can kind of grind this one out, and if they can get momentum early against FAZE, we've seen that FAZE can get put away in grand finals like this if they really face adversity early. I know Draza hasn't lost to OPTIC in a really long time, but I think OPTIC's going to get one. And to be honest, I'm picking it for this tournament. So yeah, call me a psychopath. I don't care. I think that OPTIC's, to me, I don't think FAZE is going to run the table at this point. I do think at some point it's going to be something for OPTIC, and I think they finally win one in Toronto at this event. But I could look like a moron if FAZE make the run. I'm just trying to, give you guys a different perspective. I definitely see an angle for OPTIC in these matchups, and listen, I think at some point it's got to end, and I think it ends on Sunday. So there you go. That's my predictions. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of the bracket. It's a fun bracket. I think, you know, biggest surprises for me are New York getting top 6. I just think with the lack of how they have played, it's going to be tough to grind to elimination round 4, especially if they have to beat Carolina or Seattle, who are like really solid S&D squads. I think looking at the losers bracket, I did pick the Miami over Vegas upset, but there isn't really much else there. I think Minnesota's in a lot of trouble after this event. They get dead last. And then, yeah, I mean, the only like major upset that I can see early on this tournament is Thieves over New York. I just can't convince myself to pick Thieves against New York, just because I need to see more from the Thieves team that they actually have that fire in them, because they look like a decent team online, but I think when the lights are bright, I'm not sure if they have that in them right now. So let me know in the comments what you guys think of the video. Like, if you enjoyed, subscribe for more. And as always, guys, we'll see you on the next one.